So we close in 5 seconds.
Yeah, please.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Here are the results, Ravi.
Okay. Soft loan program for working capital is more beneficial. Less than half the participants say that FTA, I mean, they are all very, I mean, existing debt restructuring only 8% say. And then tax subsidies, yes, they are saying 32% says yes, it should be extended. So that is revealing indeed. Thank you, participants, for sharing your perspective. So now let us move on to we are just 10 minutes behind schedule, not bad, I should say. So nonetheless, I will request our next speaker to keep it well within the time. So Mr. Rahul Dasari, the next speaker, is the CEO and director of Sunshot Technologies. He founded the company in 2010. Exactly, I'm sure he must be celebrating the 10th anniversary of the founding of his company, along with his two IIMA batchmates, Anshuman Bhatnagar and Indrajit Gudile. Sunshot engineers, constructs and develops on-site solar power plants for larger INC customers like airports and railways. Rahul was one of the 27 recipients of the prestigious Economic Times Young Leaders Award in the year 2014. He was also featured as one of the 100 most powerful leaders in solar industry by Solar Quarter. Rahul holds a degree in engineering from the Army College of Engineering, Bangalore, and MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. Rahul, please take over.
Thank you. Thank you, Ravi sir. I just need your help. I think my audio is all right. All okay?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay. And yeah. Is my screen visible? Is that?
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah. All right. Good morning, all of you. I think I should almost say good afternoon. Thank you for having me here for this webinar, Ravi sir and Intersolar team. So I think I'll get into the gist of it. And I think the disclaimer that I would like to put is that our focus, as Sunshot, is primarily into distributed energy space. You would see that the company is not called Sunshot Solar, but it's called Sunshot Technologies, because the whole idea is to constantly look at technologies that can be applied to manage the distributed energy needs of commercial and industrial energy consumers in emerging economies. So I'll be talking from the experience and learnings from this particular spectrum, and hence it will be a little bit more focused. As Ravi sir said, I think just to give the context, I wanted to briefly take you all through the experience. So we have been in the renewable energy space for the last 10 years. First 3 years, we focused mostly in the wind sector and in helping large corporates manage their greenhouse gas emissions, their carbon emissions, their sustainability strategy, etc. In a robust way. And we were working as owners engineers in the wind sector. In 2013-14, we pivoted due to a couple of macroeconomic and commercial factors into rooftop solar, and the first OpEx project, where a customer need not do an investment, and we bring the investment on board, was done at Mumbai International Airport Limited. So that plant has just completed 6 years as of now. We raised a couple of rounds of funding, and now it's almost 100 member plus team, more than 200 sites, and around 60 plus megawatt has been kind of installed. And if I can tell you, the good thing or the bad thing is that out of these 200 odd installations, we have been able to just integrate 2 installations with storage. So I think I'll be having a slightly a contrarian view here about how storage is going to pick up in the C&I sector, because again, I have been hearing the narrative for the last 4 to 5 years, and as I say, the proof of the pudding is in the results itself, the pudding itself. And it's been 5 years, and our success stories have been 2 small projects out of the 200 plus odd projects that we have installed. Yeah. So as you see, I think the background that I will give is that we work with a good quality off takers. So you would see all these are high quality multinational corporations for whom definitely energy savings, long-term energy, sustainability, locking in their costs, etc. is important. But at the same time, these all companies have signed up to RE100. They really want to decarbonize. They want to reduce the emissions. They want to meet the the sustainability development goals, which large financial institutions like say World Bank, IFC, etc., UN have kind of demarcated. So the point is, there is definitely a curiosity. There are inquiries about how do we integrate solar so that at the end of the day, these entities are able to reduce their energy cost significantly, and also the carbon emissions significantly. Yeah. And now almost in this space, we are the third largest in the country as per the latest report by Bristol India in the solar rooftop space, in the EPC space. Now diving into the battery integrated system that we all are talking, just to as a quick refresher. So this is how a storage integrated or a battery integrated system is set up. You have it integrated between the main LED panel, the diesel generator, and the power that you are getting from the grid. And depending upon the techno-commercial logic, that is at what time period you want the battery to switch on, which depends upon what is the tariff at that particular time period, what is the charge level of the battery at that time period, and is something like a solar available in that time slot or not. So it's a time-dependent techno-commercial decision making that the overall energy management controller, or the what I call the logic with which this microgrid is managed, needs to have. And again, this microgrid has to be quite dynamic, because things like your energy charges, both fixed and variable, your contract demand charges, price of diesel, etc., they keep on changing. And plus, also on the demand side, that is the load side, the way the factory consumes electricity changes. Like, for example, right now, the situation that you're seeing, most of the entities, even if they are under essential categories, have a substantial reduction in their load. And they have rooftop solar on top of their roofs. And most of the rooftops right now, are either working in a curtailed way, that is, they have a power reduction algorithm, or they are, switching off a couple of inverters, where actually, in this stage, maybe a storage solution, provided it was commercially okay, could have, kind of taken it up. Yeah. I think, again, just to reiterate, the benefits of battery integrated rooftop solar, most of the panelists have touched upon in the distributed energy or the C&I space. So yes, it's a kind of a repetition, but on broad levels, you are, as I said, absolutely able to optimize the solar power, that is getting generated. And the reason for optimization are two. One, among all the possible source of energy that a C&I customer has, solar is the cheapest. Beyond doubt, solar is the cheapest. So every unit that you are able to use, even to charge battery, is is the best possible solution as compared to all other power sources that you have available. Plus, you don't have any significant price increases, because like say solar has a 25-year life. At least in the case of battery, now we are talking about 8 to 10 year kind of a life. So what happens is, to other power sources is quite stable and quite low here. And yes, there is a huge possibility of replacing the diesel generator. Again, the word I would use is, you can't really replace the diesel generator. Actually, you can greatly reduce the diesel consumption that is happening, because there is a reason why C&I customers even today are buying diesel generator. There's a reason why companies like a Caterpillar or a Kirloskar or a Cummins are still having an offtake of diesel generators in the C&I space. And I think that needs to be understood well to understand how storage gets integrated, or why somebody is not taking storage per se. With respect to challenges on the power system, the power storage system. That's why, I mean, Ravi, you saw that I had a smile on my face when the first poll kind of came in. But again, these are the four major trends or questions I see, our C&I customers asking us, and why the adoption is not there. I think the number one point here is the high upfront costs. Okay, and this is one element on which we have still not been able give an answer. And let me take a case study here. We have been trying to give a significant, a 2 megawatt hour battery storage solution to one of the large airports and a very large, auto company. And both have their own reasons why they want to go for storage. In one place, the power cost is exorbitant, and in the other case, there is no net metering, provision out there. But very simply put, even when we do a back of the envelope calculation, even at a tariff of around 10 rupees or 12 rupees per unit, solar plus storage is almost touching 10 years of payback when I take the cost of equity as almost zero. Now, a 10-year payback on an overall infra project does not look pretty bad. But the challenge is that at the end of 10th year, typically you need to replace battery, which is the significant part or cost of the system. So what's happening is, just to break even, you're looking at almost a 9 to 11 year or an average 10-year kind of a horizon. So what is happening is, basically commercially, it's not working out. So whether we go for even a low cost solution like, say, a VRLA, high density lead acid batteries, so that at least a storage solution can happen, or lithium ion technology. So here in this case, we were trying to pitch a lithium ferrous phosphate technology, but just because of the commercial payback, it became quite difficult. So I'll come to that in my next slide. So that's a single most big reason that we are not able to kind of see the penetration of storage in the commercial and industrial space as we would have liked it to be. And this has been the narrative for the last 5 years. Over the last 5 years, everybody was expecting that the way the storage cost should fall should be similar to the way we have seen module costs falling, both on the polycrystalline and on the monocrystalline side. And people felt that because of electric vehicles taking the step, in a big way in US, Europe, and even in China, you'll see a significant reduction in battery costs. Though there has been a reduction in battery costs, but still it has not come to parity. The next is on the operational and maintenance challenges. And I think here, again, it's a fear of unknown. Way back in 2014-15, we had the same question that we had to answer customers with respect to solar as well. I mean, as simplistic question as, will it work? So in the case of battery also, because it's a significant investment, for an investor, IPP fund, or even a customer, 5,000 or 4,000 cycle kind of battery, which has 10-year life, etc. So people are not very clear, or they don't trust when we say, what kind of operational maintenance is required.
Rahulji, I'm sorry to interrupt you. If you could kindly wind up in another 1 minute, that would be great. Sorry,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, Ravi Kumar sir. So yeah, so these are this is on the power storage system that we were seeing. And I think the last slide, and I'll just request 1 more minute on this, Visa. That is, I think the opportunities that we need to demarcate to get this thing going in the C&I space. So there we need to be very, very crystal clear. And that's what, when I was thinking, these 4-5 opportunities kind of came in. So you can use storage to replace the peak electricity in the peak slot, that is evening 6 to 10, because right now no power can be set off in that slot, whether it's rooftop, net metered, or wind under open access. I think as a design philosophy, we should not be saying that we will replace DG. That doesn't happen, because DG is a kind of a source of a continuous power 24/7. But we can definitely replace diesel consumption significantly and hence bring about carbon and cost saving. In certain cases, especially commercial customers, you can use storage to kind of manage the fixed demand cost, which is again a significant cost. And as a sector, e-mobility, mining, construction, roads and buildings, etc., are places where normally a lot of DG is used and a lot of temporary connections are used, where a solar plus storage can be looked at, because they are also in very far off location where the cost of land, etc., is not very expensive. And finally, I think, though it looks very oxymoronic, but the challenge is also for storage in India is that the more better the quality of power and grid availability becomes, tougher it will be for the penetration. Similarly, net metering, makes it difficult for adoption of storage. But again, the silver lining is that net metering is only up to 1 megawatt, and beyond 1 megawatt, you need to bring in storage, if not today, tomorrow, so that the customer is able to utilize, 100% of his electricity. So I think that's the feedback, as a implementer, I would like to give to the audience here. Yeah. And yes, I mean, we do storage solutions also on OpEx basis. So the capital is not a concern. As I said, it's basically a return on the capital or to get on this project, is a concern, because of which we haven't taken it in a very big way, unlike say a storage or wind. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul. That was a great learning, because you have been focusing on C&I, and it's very revealing that only 2 out of your 200 customers chose to have electrical energy storage. And you also succinctly brought out the reasons behind why electrical energy storage is not as attractive to particularly to the commercial and industrial establishments. So there is a lot of learning in that, and I'm sure the people who are in the electrical energy storage space will take note of that, and I'm sure the further development and future developments will take care of this particular aspect. So thank you, Rahul, for your presentation. Now, Mohsin, you have got any question,
Yes,
please? Yeah,
one
please
more poll,
flash it.
please.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
please. Here we go.
Yeah, so according to you, which is the best suitable energy storage technology for rooftop solution? It is a lead acid, lithium ion, flow battery, or the metal layer. So 28 seconds, please.
Okay. Ten more seconds.
Oh.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Lithium ion beats all other technologies, 68%. Great. Followed by lead acid, it's way behind at 20, and then flow battery 8%, and metal, they're all in its infancy, obviously. Thank you so much, participants, for giving your perspective. Now let us now go on to the next speaker. We have this Dr. Rashi Gupta. She has been a pioneer in India for advanced lithium batteries and many innovative energy storage products. She is a committee member with Bureau of India's Standards, International Electrotechnical Commission, National Energy Storage Committee, FICCI, and an admired speaker on various forums. She is also fondly known as Battery Wali. So, Madam Battery Wali, so please take over, and we eagerly look forward to hearing your perspective. Dr.
Thank
Rashi.
you so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And thank you, Smartery and the Intersolar team, IESA team, to give me this opportunity. Well, most of my colleagues right now have spoken on technologies, on what is required in future of rooftop solar and storage, and many things have come up. So my presentation has to be very short and crisp. Okay. Yeah. So basically, the current crisis of COVID-19, it has taught us a few things. Number one, that there can be a sudden change in the demand patterns, which was very unexpected. Nobody thought that something like this could happen, where the industries would be shut down for such a long time, and the critical loads like hospitals and crisis management teams, the load there would increase. Now, what happens is, we have also seen that renewable energy generation has also been curtailed in many places in the country. So we need to understand that if storage is around, it will always help us to cater to these demands later on, which when they will spike up. Solar plus storage can ensure a very reliable supply, reduce dependency on the grids, and can give you a lot of energy independence. So there are a lot of ancillary services also with storage can look into, like frequency regulation, grid stability, load management, demand management. We saw a lot of rounds of videos happening around, at the time when on the 5th of April, when we were told that, okay, you have to switch off your lights for 9 minutes on the 5th of April, so at 9 p.m. So they were like, everybody was so scared that what if the grid collapses. But thankfully, nothing of that happened. We sailed through it very proudly. I would say we sailed through that situation. We need to understand that storage is an important aspect of solar energy because of and not just solar, even renewables, because we are in a very intermittent kind of generation stage when renewables come into picture. So another important aspect is that this COVID-19 has highlighted that we need to have resiliency at national and regional levels. Today we can see that the borders are sealed, everything is sealed, and but thankfully the national grid is there. So we all are interconnected having the electricity. What if some situation happens where the grid is not interconnected and we're not able to have electricity in our houses? And in today's generation, what we know is that everything works on electricity. Power is a very important source. It's a very important element, just like we have those 5 elements. So renewable energy would help us to reduce these dependencies on fossil fuels, reduce emissions, and today, the most positive impact of COVID is on the Mother Earth and the nature that we see. So we need to continue with that nice impact that we've had, and we need to ensure that we do a lot of more. We add more renewables, we add more storage, we make more resilience into the system. So we need to have policies, investments also coming, which must align to this vision of sustainable future, where I can see our friend Mani Kurana ji also said a lot of things have been going on from World Bank who are trying to implement things here. And there are a lot of discussions happening around this. So what we have also done is we have implemented a lot of rooftop solar with energy storage, smart ESS systems, which I would like to show, which have a lot of preventive monitoring and predictive monitoring systems imbibed into it. So what happens is in this digital age is that we all need to know what's happening with my system. Like I could see in the Q&A and in the chat section, people had a lot of anxiety and questions about what would happen if my solar system doesn't work, how long the batteries are going to work. So I'd like to show you a snapshot of these cell measurements here. Like we do this kind of preventive and predictive monitoring systems where each and every cell of your entire battery is being monitored, actually secure. Even today, like some of us had a lot of money with us, but still there were no stock of groceries available or no supplies available in the shops today. So isn't it time that we think that we have to work just like how we've been working towards our financial security? Is it not important that we start working towards our energy security also? So we need to understand, have we stored enough to deal with the next crisis? Have we gained enough immunity from the power woes that we all have been facing till date? Have we enumerated enough measures to keep the environment clean and green post-COVID? We all have been talking, we have been like, there have been a lot of discussions around COVID and post-COVID, but have we as an individual, as a companies, made our steps and provided measures at the top level, at the senior levels to ensure that the environment would be clean and green post-COVID? So this is something importantly that I'd like to say, and I think I have been in time, Raviji, to maintain this. So thank you so much. I'll take question and answer session with you.
Thank you, Rashiji. I mean, you ended on a great note because we heard from Rahul Dasri also that Earth Day is coming, and you also reminded us how responsible we need to be beyond making some I mean, intentions, but then we have to actually turn it into intentions. And thanks also for covering the sharing your perspective on the impact of COVID on current rooftop market and how rooftop market can learn and then build on what has so far been done. Thank you very much for that presentation. Now, without much ado, I think we will have to move on to the question and answer session because we have just overstepped our time limit by 10 minutes. And I think we will ask certain questions. But I have a particular question to ask Mr. Dr. Rahul Balavalkar because he heads the Energy Storage Alliance, and then he's doing a lot of work for the industry as a whole. So Rahul, I have this question. Many bright engineers, they have launched startups in the lithium-ion manufacturing, or even monitoring system, battery management systems, and things like that. All of them are going through a tough patch, and you have a very big companies as members. How do you think you, our alliance, and your members could support these young and aspiring and ambitious young entrepreneurs?
Sure. Thank you, Ravi, for that question. I think this is definitely a challenging time for all of us, and especially for the early stage companies. These next few months could be really crucial. So we are doing number of things. So one is under the ISA Academy, we are undertaking series of skill development activities to help these companies through this program. The other area where some of the companies we are using the ISA network to actually connect member companies to customers, because over the last 7 years as a ISA we have built a huge database, and also there are a lot of opportunities for collaboration within the ISA member companies, where for example there are companies who are manufacturing BMS and there are other companies who are making battery packs or ESS solutions, and they are anyway looking at buying BMS from other companies. So that way there are a lot of matchmaking we are starting to do. We have even launched online store now, because ISA website indiaesa.info has been one of the prominent websites attracting a lot of queries from potential buyers. So we have now actually introduced a ISA store where all the ISA members can raise their products and see that. And we have also now finalizing an accelerator for early stage companies. So we have already identified series of investors who are ready to support some of these early stage companies. So we have been working with individual one-on-one early stage companies and helping them with connecting them with investors as well.
Oh, thank you, Rahul. Really, your support will be very, very valuable to these early startup companies, and they will be definitely looking forward to such support. Okay, great. So actually, we have received a lot of questions, though I do have many questions to ask. Debbie is also there. He is monitoring some of the interesting questions which I found, which he has received. And maybe if you have any interesting question, please interrupt me, and then you please request the participant to come on.
Hi Ravi, if you are
Yeah.
able to hear, there is a question from Ankit Singh.
Okay.
How good is the storage system on carbon footprint? And moreover, adding to the storage system with solar and wind, does it really a renewable energy based on the storage manufacturing? So Rahul or Sanjay John or anyone else also can address to this.
Sure, I can take a first crack and then ask Shaji or someone else to also jump in. See, as a storage is a agnostic to generation. So a lot of times the carbon footprint of storage will depend on what's the source which you have used for charging. And number of times people just assume that because you are charging storage from maybe a grid where majority of the generation is coming from thermal sources, you are actually increasing carbon footprint, but that's not necessarily true. A lot of the specifics need to be considered. For example, right now we have on a grid, there are a number of coal plants which are getting operated at minimum generation level. And in fact, NTPC and others have been lowering their minimum generation level from 75 to 55. And right now they are even talking about going down to 35% as a minimum operating level. So when you are operating thermal plants at such a partial load, your carbon footprint is much more. So if you can actually use storage, and even if they're getting charged from thermal plants, if you are actually improving efficiency of thermal plants, then you can have net savings in terms of the carbon footprint. But especially when you're using renewable sources, then it's a completely no-brainer, because you are able to use completely end-to-end green energy and avoid not just sort of a tailpipe emission or local emissions, but also emissions at the source. There are questions where people are talking about the ecological impact of battery manufacturing, right from mining and sources. So that's area where again there is a lot of work happening on recycling or second life batteries, and most of these advanced technologies, as Rahul Desari mentioned, we are looking at batteries with more than 5,000 cycles. So if you're using it once a day, then you are going to use these technologies for more than 10 years. So from those perspective, you are actually the life cycle impact is also manageable, and particularly if you can do recycling in a systematic way. And that's where last year ISA has launched a specific initiative called India Recycling and Reuse Initiative, where we are trying to address that. But if you do not take care of that, then yes, there could be a negative environmental impact, and that we need to be careful about. Shaji, you want to add anything?
No, perfectly right. It all depends on what source you are using to store the energy. If it is renewable, then it is perfectly a clean way of storing it. Only question is whether the manufacturing is energy intensive and what type of energy is used in the manufacturing of battery. So that is a very open question, and depending upon what type of battery technology, there is different kind of energy sources being used. So it is little difficult to answer, but I can say that battery is a clean form of technology.
So there is a request to moderator. There is a good question by Jayant Sinha. So this is on the import and manufacturing of batteries. If you can unmute the audience, it will be great to have his question. Jayant, you can speak the question to the panelist. You can ask your question on the import
Devi,
and
let me check because there are good 450 people lined up on the screen. So
okay.
few more seconds before I unmute the gentleman.
And there is another.
This is Mr. Jayant Sinha, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. He's on the screen. Mr. Jayant, you would like to share your question once again to the panelists, please?
My question to the panelists is that what would it take for India to become self-reliant in the manufacturing of energy storage solutions post-COVID?
I think Rahul will be the right person to answer. Please, Rahul, would you like to take this question?
Yeah. So this is something which is very close to our heart, and we have been working now for more than 3 years for pushing right policy support on this. We think again there have been some views that India should focus only on assembling, and that's a part where actually already we have more than 100 companies who have started assembling battery packs and solutions in India. But our vision is that we need to have actually end-to-end manufacturing in India. So that's where we are very optimistic that Niti Aayog's advanced chemistry cell manufacturing program will get launched very shortly. It was finalized last year. Now some of the detailed provisions of that is getting finalized, and World Bank through its technical assistance program is helping Niti Aayog in addressing some of the things. We have just last week or this week we have finalized the advanced testing and certification component of this, so that any manufacturer who is going to manufacture and avail incentives from government, there will be a clarity on what type of a testing and certification will be required. We as India Energy Storage Alliance have been looking at a complete supply chain for manufacturing of energy storage technologies, and we see that there are even large amount of opportunities for various component manufacturing as well as even process material in India as well. We already have some of the members like Himadri Chemicals who are not just waiting for someone to set up cell manufacturing in India, but they are already able to supply some of the materials, process materials to international manufacturers. As a ISA for last 2 years, we have partnered with IEMA, Indian Electrical and Electronic Manufacturers Association, where we have been doing master classes for CXOs of companies who are looking at diversifying and getting into the manufacturing ecosystem, because it's not that everyone has to just manufacture cells at gigawatt hour level. There are a lot of opportunities where companies who are already into manufacturing certain components which can fit into the overall ESS solution. We have a number of international companies who have actually come to us and said that, oh, if we are getting into the supplying these solutions in India, we don't want to bring in everything imported from outside, because that is increasing the cost, and some of the problems what Rahul and others mentioned earlier are resulting in terms of a higher cost. Whereas if we can localize some of the components even by importing the cells, then there are a lot of cost reduction opportunities available in India. So we think we need to look at the entire manufacturing in a holistic way. It will take maybe another 2 or 3 years before we have cell manufacturing, but there needs to be a lot of other component manufacturing and other ecosystem needs to be built for India to take a real leadership in manufacturing.
Time for 2 more questions. Debi, Ravi.
So there is one interesting question on rooftop solar side. It is by Priyadarshi Saurav. So please the moderator unmute. It is regarding the different policies in different states, and there is no symmetrical approach by the states. So if you can unmute Priyadarshi, he can clarify.
Priyadarshi Saurabh, right?
Yes, Priyadarshi Saurabh.
Sorry. Yes. Priyadarshi Saurabh, you can raise your question, please, to the audience, to the panelist.
Yeah, thanks for giving me a chance, and good afternoon to all the panelists and given a wide spectrum of solar and the solar world. I am also in the field of providing solar solutions. But the biggest hindrance that I'm finding is in the policies that are around installation of solar system itself, be it rooftop or somebody is installing it on the ground. The policies are varying from state to state. Like Orissa has given a lot of benefits and the payoffs. Whereas in Maharashtra, if I'm correct to understand, now any society wants to do the net metering, it might have to pay to the Maharashtra State Electricity Board. That's the discrepancy in the policies, and the policies are not very clear to everybody who is new into this business and the people who want to install it. So any IAC is taking that step to unify the policy across the globe, across at least Indian urban areas and the solar and the rural areas.
Yeah.
So this can be answered by Sunsort, L&T and others who are leading in this space.
I'll take this, Devi. Am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think Mr. Priyadarshi, absolutely right question. And it's not like, I don't like government support or I'm, anti-government intervention, but I truly believe that, government should, beyond a point, should not be, not be controlling the business, should not be in business. And the reason for that is that the moment government interventions kind of, come in with respect to subsidy, etc., it completely distorts the market. And the competency that is needed to crack open the market is very different in that case. So whether it is storage, whether it is solar, right from 2014, I was saying that there should be zero subsidy in this sector. I mean, and I still maintain it, zero subsidy in the sector. Yes, policy intervention part, you're absolutely right. And policy intervention, we need a stable policy. That's the need of the hour. But I think as an entrepreneur or as a business person, it's also our responsibility to see that what are the real fundamental trends or questions that the government also does not have an answer to. Number one, power is a concurrent subject. Center cannot legislate beyond the point. Okay, so you need to see from the financial strength, rating of the discoms, industrialization, what percentage of power is going to farmers, how much is the subsidy burden on the discom, etc., before taking a call on a state that how the tariffs should move and how the policies in the state is going to move. The second is, how much ever we all can love renewables, solar, wind, storage. But the fundamental issue is that every rooftop solar plant that you're putting on top of a residential customer or a C&I customer, you are taking out the revenue from the discom. And these entities, though maybe contributing only 20, 30, 40% of the volume, but they contribute almost 70, 80% of the profitability of the discoms, because industries, residential customers are high paying customers. We pay high tariff and there is a cross subsidy element into it. So, I mean, the fact is all the discoms sooner or later are going to tax, rooftop solar plus storage via net metering or any other charges. Yeah, the point is, as it happened in Maharashtra, we lost 2 months, but then you would see that there was a very strong pushback that came, and the policy that has come, I think, is quite okay. Because you need to balance both the arms of the government together, because they also need to manage their finances. So my response to you would be that this is going to be a fluid subject. Nobody has an answer to it. One arm of the government would push for this, the other arm is not going to support it. And as entrepreneurs or as industry leaders, we need to look at those fundamental trend and make our strategy. Else we'll just be ruining and saying that we lost out money or cash flow because of government subsidies or government policy interventions. Yeah.
That was a great answer. The entrepreneurial spirit in you is really finding expression to this after made question. So really, I mean, you are speaking from what you have seen, and that's a good response to a very good question indeed.
There be any question from the energy side of it? Energy storage side of it?
Okay. So then we will have one question with to Mani Kurana. Mani Kurana ji, you had this $1 billion energy storage promotion program or something like that. I'm not very sure. I have heard it and read it briefly long time back. Could you please tell us what this $1 billion program and what is the status and how India will benefit from that?
As I mentioned in my presentation, so how World Bank works is we get a request from Department of Economic Affairs to prepare a program. So we got a financing request from Department of Economic Affairs to put in place a $1 billion financing in phases, obviously. And what we've started out by doing is doing a technical assistance and helping out Niti Aayog in as Rahul was mentioning, in putting up the manufacturing paper that they are doing, plus working with 4 states in understanding their needs in transmission and distribution sector on battery storage and what is the need, and the ISTS level. But after that, and after getting in touch with all the key stakeholders, we will prepare the project. Now the project can be I can tell you the initial thoughts can be of 2 varieties. One, it could be a budgetary support to the government after they put in place the right policies and regulatory for battery storage. Or it can be something like the solar rooftop project, where we actually make concessional financing available for investments for battery storage. So that we will plan as time goes ahead, and once we can actually start going out and meeting the various stakeholders, that's the next step. So we are still finalizing the contours of that program.
Oh, thank you.
So this is Devi. I have
just one second.
Ravi, I have the last question.
Yeah, just 1 minute. Kuranaji, thank you very much. But then actually my question was, I mean, I made a question based on the global development of India. Maybe that $1 billion was not the right number. Anyway, I mean, because of shortage of time, maybe we will catch up on the development that is taking place and the promotion you are doing for this storage globally. Anyway, please go ahead, Devi. Ask the next question, please.
So this is the last question.
Yeah,
so as we heard, like L&T is installing one of the second largest project in India on battery storage in the island. We want to hear from Sajijan, what are the 2 challenges they are facing in the installations? That will be helpful to most of the audience, those that are planning to enter this space. 2 challenges.
The 2 challenges, if you ask me for that specific project, the biggest challenge is the logistic, because Andaman being Andaman, so far away from mainland, and then transporting the material inside has been a big challenge. So that was the biggest challenge which we face. So it required a lot of planning, partnering with some good logistic companies, and then a timely dispatch of material and manpower so that you implement it in project. One more action which we took was containerizing the entire battery. So everything is being containerized in a local, our own factory in Kanchipuram, which is near Chennai, and then we are dispatching that containers to the island. So that is one big challenge and the solution which we found. If you ask me, second big challenge, the terrain and the climate in Andaman. So the terrain, if you see, Andaman is very mountainous and rough. So working in those kind of terrain becomes biggest challenge when it comes to implementation of solar plus battery. And somehow that we have found out some good methods to work on those kind of terrain. The design, which is very, very unique, like it's a terrain following model of installation of modules, because of which it just takes the contour of the mountains, not cutting the mountains. So those were the 2 challenges and the solution which we took forward in this project.
Thanks, Saji.
Yeah, that's all. Okay, I think we are just 5 minutes ahead of time, and we have with us today Dr. Florian Wesendorf. Dr. Wesendorf, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, great. So he's Managing Director, Solar Promotion, GmbH. Thank you, and nice having you, Florian. And you must have followed the proceedings of the webinar. And here he is to thank you all, and also to share his share his his observations and how he values the partnership with IESA and whatever. Please, could you please share your remarks and then also conclude the session, please?
Of course, I will do that. So first of all, thank you very much. So thank you very much, Dr. Rashi. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Dr. Rahul. Thank you, Shaji. Thank you, Mani, and all the others who had made that possible. I guess it's quite important to, yeah, to use this chance. The purpose of this kind of a webinar series is really to provide the industry professionals during the lockdown period with some deep insights of leading industry experts. And I guess that is a quite good example of what happened today, for instance, that with all your power, with all your expertise, with all your knowledge you have shared in this webinar. Congratulations. I'm very overwhelmed regarding this. Thank you very much. And we can clearly see that even the industry is valuing that, since the response of the webinars have been tremendous, with nearly 1,800 registrants for this in the last webinar. I guess that is quite important to emphasize over here. And what I like to say here is that we really value our collaborations with organizations like the Indian Energy Storage Associations, which help us both to synergize our strength and advances in the interest of the converging industries of solar, of energy storage, and electromobility. So I guess we strive to provide the continuous opportunities for all business professionals and customers to connect and prosper. And in my perspective, webinars are indeed an effective tool towards that, especially in those kinds of desperate times we are now in. So we hope that over the two webinars you gained new insights and understanding which would help you in your current and future pursuits. Let me thank all the participants once again, the experts who admit their pressing commitments, took time off at very short notice and shared their wealth of knowledge. And of course, last but not least, as said before, our partner, the Indian Energy Storage Associations, very much for your support in this context.
Thank you. So we conclude at this point in time, and as you know, we will be sharing this video, and we, of course, we have received hundreds of questions. As you know, in such a limited time, it's not possible to accommodate all. In fact, I had many questions to ask. I was restricted, and I had just one question to ask. Nonetheless, the speakers brought in their deep understanding of the subject and the challenges that this industry faces, and of course, they also show the bright future that lies ahead post-COVID, and of course the Earth Day is also coming to celebrate, and I'm sure with that we can hope have a future beginning on a new note. Earth Day will be the maybe a springboard, if I may say, for us to recover and then build this industry as a strong one which shapes our future and ensures that our future generation lives happily and in a manner that we have enjoyed the benefits of nature and Mother Earth. Thank you very much. Thank you all for all speakers and participants and my fellow colleagues in MMI, IES. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.